tonight. All we saw was a sea of orange. Orange waves. All orange. Big orange. All orange. Who's orange? What house? Whose house? Whose house? Whose house? Whose
Make some noise, Orange fans. It's time for the Cuse Nation podcast with Sean and Joe. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/Cuse Nation podcast.
What's up, Cuse Nation? Welcome to episode 34 of the Cuse Nation podcast with Sean and Joe. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music. I'm Sean alongside my buddy Joe. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How you doing?
All right. So we want to be the number one podcast for Syracuse sports. So if you would, please subscribe and give us a rating on iTunes. That would be awesome. Thanks in advance for that. You have to subscribe first to be able to do it, but we would really appreciate that. So my favorite part of the week is back, and that is the day they release, Syracuse.com releases the poll from the previous game to get a feel for what the fans are feeling. I'm sure, we're coming down off of our Clemson win, heading into Miami now. It's time to look ahead to Miami. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to do some Bowl Watch stuff. We're going to do some we'll go over some power rankings from Brent Axe from Syracuse.com, and then we'll do some pregame, and then we have just a small recruiting story for the end of the show. So, all right, Joe, here we go, dude. Here we go. You tell me where you land in this, okay?
Yep.
This is the poll from Syracuse.com after the Clemson win. The first choice is, in Babers we trust. Second is, I'm encouraged but need to see more. Third is, it's one game, people, calm down. The fourth is other, and the fifth is still picking apples. So 0.6% are still picking apples. 0.69% are other. So as you can imagine, Joe, you actually touched on, great win, but let's not think we're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. That's kind of along the lines of it's one game, people calm down. But I've got to say, I'm encouraged, but I need to. This says I need to see more. I just want to see more.
Right.
Or in Babers we trust. That takes the lead at 58%. So, which is understandable after the week that man had. So, what do you think, Joe?
Well, I think it all depends on how you see the question. The question was, what describes your faith in Syracuse football at the moment? And I don't know if it means, some people might look at it as a future, some people might look at it as this season. And when I was talking about pumping the brakes in this one game, I was talking about the fans basically thinking that just because we beat Clemson that we're going to win every single game. Because I don't think that's the case. But as far as the future, this isn't the full repertoire of players that Babers is going to have in the future. And what he's seeing, he's still playing with a lot of Schaefer's guys. And for what he has and the experience and the younger guys and stuff like that, I would say in Babers we trust, just because I trust in his system, and I trust that these type of games are going to be winnable, and we're going to be in them for foreseeable future as long as he's at Syracuse. But like I said before, when I was talking about that, I was talking about the fan basically thinking that now that we beat Clemson, we should go undefeated for the rest of the season and win every game. So, I mean, I trust Babers, and I trust I have faith in him without a doubt. So,
all right, cool. Well, that's always fun to do.
But
go ahead.
Beacon Skiff is an awesome player.
Beacon.
So
0.6%.
Well.
The old Beacon Skiff. So
you don't miss it. You don't miss it till you're gone.
Yeah, I know, right? Soggy Macintosh apples.
Oh, come on.
I'm not a fan. My wife loves them, though. Every time she sees Macintosh apples, I end up with 2 bags here. I'm like, oh, these are terrible. They're too soft.
Come on. Granny Smiths, let's go. Come on.
Oh, I love some Granny Smiths now. I love some Granny Smiths. Those Macintosh, man, they're for the birds, literally.
Yeah,
I'll give it to a bird.
I think computer when I hear that. So.
Yeah, exactly. So the number of bowl teams we have is 13 out of 78 so far. NC State clinched this week. Ohio State, Wisconsin, Southern California, South Florida, and Texas Christian all clinched after this weekend. So the odds, we were down to 15%, by the way, at one point. They put the Syracuse odds up to 75% for making a bowl game after this week. So when we look at it, Miami, kind of, inconsistent quarterback play, slow starts. Florida, they kind of struggled to score a little bit. They're kind of a mess, Florida, in my opinion.
Florida State?
Yeah. Wake Forest, a solid team, way underrated. We've mentioned that. But they got they're not like real super explosive or anything. And then, what do you think about Louisville? I don't know. They're kind of hit or miss too, right? And then
if you give up 45 points to Boston College, then something's wrong in the defensive end.
Exactly. So. And then speaking of Boston College, they had that A.J. Dillon, that freshman running back, ran for 272 yards against Louisville. So those are our games coming up. Miami's 5-0. If we beat Miami, I think we get a bowl game. I don't think it's going out on much of a limb to say that. So
if you look at last year, if we would have went 5-7 because of our APR and there wasn't 78 teams that it went at least 6-6, then realistically that could happen this year too. So even at 5-7, you still have an opportunity to make a bowl game. So, but now that we beat Clemson, to think that we can't win 2 games in the rest of the season, I think that's a pretty fair assessment of what our odds are at this point.
Okay.
So.
All right, just a quick history, just to put things into perspective going into this game against Miami. Syracuse football, this is from Syracuse.com. Syracuse football last defeated ranked opponents back-to-back weeks in 1983. Okay, that's just ranked. When it closed out the season with victories against number 13 Boston College and 14 West Virginia. Syracuse last defeated 2 ranked teams in the same season in 2001. When the Orange won against number 5 Virginia Tech and knocked off number 25 Boston College. That was also the last year that Syracuse was ranked in the AP Top 25. The only time Syracuse defeated 2 ranked teams in the top 10 in the same season came in 1959, Syracuse's only national championship team, when we beat number 7 Penn State and number 4 Texas in the Cotton Bowl. And I actually have a glass mug from that year, a vintage glass mug from that championship. So, okay, this I want to give to you. And tell me if you agree with this. This is Brent Axe. You're the professional on the podcast. This is Brent Axe's power rankings, okay? So take it for what it's worth and I just want to see if you agree. Clemson 1, Miami 2, Virginia Tech 3, NC State 4, Virginia 5, Georgia Tech 6, Wake Forest 7th, Cuse at 8th, Florida State at 9, Boston College 10, Louisville 11, Duke 12, Pitt 13, North Carolina 14. It's actually probably a good rundown right there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to just like the top 25. It comes down to who's winning and who's losing. Florida State still stays up there just because of basically sheer talent. I think they're struggling because their starting quarterback got injured the first game of the year, so they're going with a freshman, and like you said, they've had problems scoring. But yeah, it's always tough too because there's 2 different divisions, and not everybody plays everybody. Virginia's up there because they're 5-1, but I'd be hard pressed to say that if they were in our side of the division, they would be there. But it's still early, so Syracuse at 8. Obviously that's pure just us beating Clemson. So I think the they can say what they want. The ratings are a lot closer, so it'll change here soon. I just think that our side of the division's a lot harder, and if they're going to go by losses and wins, then you're going to have teams up there. I don't necessarily think Virginia Tech's ahead of NC State, but in Miami, I think they're just because they haven't lost. So
yeah, exactly. So
I think it's the piece to go together. It's really not. There's not a lot of validity to it, or there's a lot of things you can't really prove because most of those teams don't play each other. So
all right. So looking ahead, going into Miami, which is a little disconcerting, but going into Miami before we head into a bye week, they're beat up. They're beat up on defense. It seems to be and offense, but it seems to be they're getting a bunch of these players back. It looks like on defense. So, Joe, tell us what you think, dude. What do we need to look for?
That's just it. I think it's an interesting matchup. We played 7 games. They played 5 games due to the hurricane. Their game against Arkansas State got canceled, and the Miami-Florida State game got postponed. So it's going to be interesting to see where they make those games up. But like you said, they're starting running back going into the year. He's a season, and they have guys, they have athletes. Mark Richt he's an alum of Miami, and he was former Georgia coach. He had very, very good success in Georgia for a long time in the SEC. So they have athletes. He's got the third ranked recruiting class for next year. So that team's definitely an uprise. You can definitely say that Miami's getting back to where it used to be. But at the same time, when I look at how they've won in the team they played, I'm not as impressed as some people are. I told you I talked to your brother who's a Miami fan, and he kind of scoffed at the fact that Syracuse even had a chance, which I think is funny.
What?
Because yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, what a fool! I think they definitely have a chance.
Well, after last week's game, as long as we stay humble and we don't let this get to our heads, I think we definitely have a chance. Miami, some of the stuff that I saw, well, first going through their schedule, they beat Bethune-Cookman 41-13, and then they had almost 3 weeks off before they even had another game. They played Toledo. And
because
Toledo
of the hurricane, right? That was because of the hurricane, though, right?
Yep, because of the hurricane.
Yeah, okay.
They played Toledo at home, and Toledo was actually beating them 16-10 at halftime. Miami came out and scored 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, was up 24-16. Going into the fourth, Miami, again, they scored 2 quick touchdowns. They went up, I think it was 38-16, and Toledo actually came back and made it an 8-point game with 7 minutes to go, something like that, and they ended up beating them 52-30. Toledo, they're a MAC team, but they're not bad. But that was a game that was a lot closer than what the score was. And then they went to Duke and kind of handled Duke. I think they were a little bit too athletic on defense. But the last 2 games, Miami and Florida State, that's always, doesn't really matter the talent. That's usually always a pretty close game. And Miami scored, I think, right at the end of the game. They threw a touchdown pass to win. And then last week against Georgia Tech, they had a miraculous catch that bounced off the defensive player and kind of right into the the receiver's hand. Same guy that caught the touchdown in Florida State, put them in field goal range, and they kicked the field goal and beat them by 1 point. So as much as, we're a 16.5-point favorite now, they opened at 13, so it's just been growing. So the majority of the people out there think that Miami's going to beat us by more than 2 touchdowns, and I just don't see it based upon the teams that they've played. And like you said, they were beat up. They are getting one of their main, probably their best receiver back, Richard. But I don't see them as a team that is really where their ranking shows. They've only won 5 games. They have 3 weeks off. And in college football, as long as you don't lose, college sports period, as long as you don't lose, then you're going to move up the rankings. If someone loses in front of you, it doesn't matter if you're playing a one-play team. If it loses in front of you, you're going to get moved up. So I personally don't think they're as good as their ranking, but I'm not going to sit there and say that they don't have a chance. I mean, they're still the front runners to win the ACC Coast, I think, division and make it to the ACC championship game. But yeah, I think we definitely have a chance as long as we stay humble and we don't let this win get to our head. The quarterback there, Rozier, he's accounted for 14 touchdowns, which for the first 5 games, which is their records. I think the last person to do it was Ken Dorsey, I think. So it's been a long time for that. They've only allowed 8 touchdowns the whole season, their defense. And
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and they've been outscoring their opponents. I think they have 81-point differential. They've outscored their opponents by 81 points in the fourth quarter this year. So it's funny because it kind of reminds me that part kind of reminds me of our team. Yeah, and they almost nearly average 200 yards on the ground a game. So there are some things that, when you see, it's kind of startling, especially if you compare them to our team. But the fourth quarter thing kind of gets me because you know how we play with our tempo and stuff. We try to get people tired. So as long as we don't, again, like in other games, put ourselves in a rut early and we can use our tempo on offense and move the chains and maybe get this defense tired, I can't see them putting those kind of stats up in the fourth quarter against us like everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with that. You mentioned their run game. Their Mark Walton is out for the year, but they have that sophomore Travis Homer.
Yep. And
he put up 170 yards against Georgia Tech. So
yeah, they got stable. They got athletes.
Yeah, they do. They're deep. They're deep, man. You got to be 5-0 and have that many injuries. I mean, there's a lot of guys out last week too. So,
yeah,
and they barely squeaked that game by, though. I mean, let's be honest.
There's a couple games that they barely squeaked out. I said, between the games they played, I mean, they really only beat Bethune-Cookman and Duke handily. I mean, Toledo was down 8 with 8 minutes to go. They just scored a couple more touchdowns at the end of the game to blow it open. I just don't think Toledo had the horses the fourth quarter to deal with the run game. I think it's going to be closer than what people think. I would definitely take Syracuse with the points.
What's the spread?
I opened at 13, and at this point right now it's 16.5. So people have been betting Miami big because that's the only reason that the spreads go up. So
okay, right,
16.5. So again, like I said, and it's in Miami. So I mean, again, weather is always a concern. So they get one of those little tropical little storms, or it's raining like last week in Georgia Tech, and that definitely goes against. I mean, you saw it last year when we played down at Wake Forest when they had the little little rainstorm, and Wake Forest ended up beating us, I think, solely because of the fact that we couldn't play outside in that rain. So, but this year's a different team, and the mentality that we have now is staying with every game and the teams that we've seen. Miami's talented, they're fast, but I don't think that they're going to have anything that we haven't seen from another team this year. So
it's the same story, different game. Can't put ourselves in a hole too early.
Yep.
I feel like their defense could get like you said, could get tired very easily, just like every other defense against the Syracuse offense. And we don't want to see the chain getting broke out. If you know what I'm saying. Miami's got the chain, 36-inch, 2.5 kilogram, 10-karat gold chain with the big U on it. And they only break it out on the sidelines for turnovers.
No, I'm not going to lie. Their defense is definitely good. Their defense is definitely good.
They're good, and they're beat up, and they were still good.
But at the same time, if you look at the team that they played,
I know.
No team that they played, I think, offense-wise. I mean, Georgia Tech got a good offense traditionally, but that's kind of a weird, triple option offense. And again, Miami's got the athletes to get sideline to sideline. And if it's just mostly run like Georgia Tech is, then it's going to be it's going to be a little bit easier for them. Same thing with Duke; they kind of have the same kind of offense, and so they matched up well with them with the spread offense. They haven't seen an offense like this, so I think that it's honestly, in my eyes, I think it's a pretty good matchup. I'm not looking at the number 8, and I'm just looking at who they've played. Yeah, granted they're 5-0, but who do they play? You know, they're beat up a little bit, and it all really just depends on, I feel like, how motivated Syracuse is.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I think, well, motive and momentum go hand in hand. So, I mean, you know, the team's clicking. I mean, the most dangerous any team can be is when they're meshing and everybody's on the same page. So,
right. And you have to count into effect. There's a couple, other things. I mean, Miami has just come off of playing Florida State and Georgia Tech, and very close games, winning at the end of the game. They need a little bit of luck in some cases to win those games. So you never really know how much that, how taxing that is to a team. And also, the one story that I read that I'm kind of looking at is Steve Ishmael, because he's from Miami. He's from that area, and he actually wanted to. His dream school was Miami. I don't think he got offered until late in the recruiting session when Miami didn't get a player or something like that. But his parents have never seen him play in the Dome. Haven't seen him play collegiately live at all, and he's going back home to Miami where his friends and family can finally see him play collegiately. And I mean, he's got uber confidence right now as far as where he's at in the game. He's leading the nation in receptions, and I would expect a really, really good game from him. So
yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, he's awesome, and he's the nation knows it right now. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
When you start to get recognized, you start to get a little bit more attention from the defense. So, but he can go up, and like we were talking earlier, I mean, he knows how to time his jumps. I mean, it's just a natural ability. So
he's a big, strong receiver with strong hands that can go up and catch the ball at the highest point. He's not going to be an easy cover for anybody. He's already played against corners that are going to play in the NFL, and he's won the overall battle in the games. So, and this is just going to be another notch in his belt, I think, especially with the motivation of being able to play in front of his parents and family and going home and stuff like that. So there's some interesting, inside stories and stuff like that. Again, like I said, I just hope that we're there mentally. That's really all. I just don't want to see a hangover game from beating Clemson. That's all. I'd rather them stay humble and understand that people still, coming out and looking at the spread, the point spread, and you just beat Clemson, the 23.5-point favorite. You figure that might be a little bit closer, but they're still not getting respect from Vegas, the bettors. They're getting respect from national media because of their upset, but I guarantee you those same people don't expect them to go back-to-back and go down to Miami and beat another top 10 team. So
no one's expecting it. No one expects it.
No. And hopefully Babers can get that message out and keep them humble and keep them hungry. And that's really what I'm looking forward to. So just come out early and, again, not fire on all cylinders like we did in the beginning against Clemson, but just keep it close, and hopefully that tempo can allow us to, because it looks like Miami's kind of the same thing. Their defense is enough to keep them in games. I don't think they've played against as good offense as we have, and it looks like they wait to kind of tire their opponents out in the fourth quarter, where they just run and run down their throat. And they got 200+ yards of rushing, and they're scoring 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So that's kind of what we got to look at.
All right, well, moving. Yeah, it's going to be a good game. It is going to be a 3:30 game, and it's on ESPN. So
yeah, I'm sure we'll get a little bit of talk on game day as well. So that'll probably be one of the games that the guys stick. So what do you think?
I think it's going to be a good game. I just the odds for winning are stacked against us so much that it feels impossible. I don't think it's impossible, but going there, if they were coming to the Dome, I think it feels different to me. But we're going there. Weather could be a factor. they're undefeated. They saw what happened to Clemson. They're going to be very aware of what we're all about. They're going to probably try to, slow the offense and condition their players. I mean, I just think that they're good enough. They're going to prepare that way, but I don't know if you can prepare for it, to be honest with you. I mean, the only game plan that I've seen is, and you could say I'm teetering on a fine line here, but you drop out so you can catch your breath for a minute. I mean, you can't tell me it hasn't happened. You know what I'm saying? So it seems to be the only strategy that works to let everybody gather their wits about him again, is to, maybe not necessarily fake an injury. It could be a cramp or something. Maybe they could get off the field and they're just like, you know what, I'm just going to drop here, give my guys a rest. I mean, that's all I'm saying. You can't tell me 100% of those are for real. There's no way. So
yeah,
I know it's not very popular to say, but
ESPN Power Index gives us an 11.4 or 14.4% chance of winning or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I've learned in all sports not to pay attention to any of that.
Yeah, matchup predictor says 11.6 Syracuse, 88.4 Miami.
Yeah. So,
but Rick was quoted saying that, the players sat down, they watched it, they know what's up, read a article on ESPN that says that Miami has eyes wide open against Syracuse. So, like you said, they're going to sneak up on them. I don't think they're going to sneak up on anybody at this point. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, of course they're going to say they're going to be prepared, but I don't know if you can fully prepare for it. I just don't. So,
right.
I mean, no one else is being able to. You don't think Clemson tried to prepare for it? You know what I'm saying? You don't think they knew about the offense? So,
yeah, well, I mean, Miami's defense is good, but they weren't Clemson. And Clemson's a far better opponent than Miami has. So,
all right. Well,
we'll only have to wait and see, but I'm definitely ready. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I'm ready too. One more quick note. Cuse loses a recruit. Well, Boeheim, I guess you could headline this two different ways. Boeheim loses recruit to Hopkins. Nate Roberts will not end up on the Orange class of 2018. So that was going to be our last spot. And, we're going to have to do hopefully something pops up or what? What do you think?
Well, I actually read something on Syracuse.com that after Nate Roberts did it at Washington, they're moving on to 7-1 center Majur Majak. So he's a 7-1 guy, and he's kind of raw. I mean, I'd probably compare him to Baimu Kita. So he's he's raw. He's continuing to get better, but from what they say, from what his high school coach says, he says he blocks everything. He's just a disruptor in the paint. It's just one of those guys that looks like he's not going to be all over the recruiting boards, top 100, this and that, whatever. But he's definitely one of those guys that if you're coaching a 2-3 zone, you don't mind taking and filling a spot to see if he can be that rim protector and that guy in the middle. Because we've proven it. Other guys have proven it. There's been no-name guys all over the place before. Those are the type of guys you need in the zone. And Bobby McKee really didn't do too much offensively. Craig Forth, guys like that just straight defenders, and Boeheim's okay with that. So obviously Nate Roberts was the guy, but he was also recruited by Mike Hopkins when Mike Hopkins was at Syracuse. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. We're going to see this a lot. Like you said, the headline that Boeheim loses recruit Hopkins. It's going to happen. There's a reason why Hopkins is the coach waiting. There's a reason why we're losing these guys. But a lot of the recruits that we're getting, if you see the recruits top 5, you'll see Washington and Syracuse in it because of the fact that Mike Hopkins came from Syracuse and recruited for Syracuse and Jim Boeheim. So, and they both, Mike Hopkins is going to instill the 2-3 zone at Washington. Not to say he's going to play it all the time like Boeheim does, but he's going to instill it. It's going to be a primary defense at his program, and so I can definitely see them having similarities as far as the recruits that they're going to be going to. So Mike Hopkins, I mean, I'm always going to love him, and honestly, I'm going to cheer for Washington. I want to see Washington do good. You know, I'm sure ESPN or whoever licking their lips trying to get a non-conference matchup with Syracuse versus Washington. You know, that would be something. But we're going to lose. They're going to recruit similar players, and we are definitely going to lose guys and win guys over Washington for years to come, especially the next couple of years, because you're talking about recruiting like Mike Hopkins is bad recruiting for Syracuse. So it's going to be interesting, but yeah, we get 7-1 center, and we got one spot, so get to play with it and see who we can get.
Now,
get
for
our best
anything,
available.
leave the options open a little bit. So,
right.
All right. Well, I guess we will try to be back with episode 35. We'll try to do another weekender if we can make it happen. After the Miami game, we'll get back on as soon as we can. So, especially if they pull this off, it'll be gigantic. So,
yeah, I'd like to say that if we're happy enough on Saturday, then we can definitely pull one off. So
pull another one off.
We can
Saturday
definitely do
night.
a podcast. You know.
We'll see. We'll see. I would still like to do. We'll try to do one at Sunday at the latest, maybe. But
yeah, well, Saturday if we lose, I'm probably just going to go apple picking.
Yeah, I don't blame you. All right, well, that's it. That's episode 34 in the books. That was your Miami pregame. For Joe, I'm Sean. Cuse Nation, we're out.
Two.
You just heard the Cuse Nation podcast with Sean and Joe.